Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm Gabriel Straub, and I'm the Chief Data Officer at Ocado Technology. That's a great question. I think I almost fell into it by coincidence. So I originally studied mathematics, then worked as a management consultant for a couple of years, came back to university and did my MBA. And at that point, data science wasn't yet really a thing. It was just slowly making its way across the Atlantic. And I had the opportunity to join an organization and bring together my passions of data or maths and business. And data science, and over time, became the thing that I had been doing from that point onwards. So I kind of fell into it in a way before it was really a thing here in the UK. I studied maths originally, and then also did a business degree as my second degree. And so I was always interested in combining those two. I think I have a very non-traditional path though, in the sense of that my first role was setting up and running a team, because I joined Tesco as my first data role, and they really needed someone who could make sure that the maps that we were building made sense from a business perspective. And so they brought me in with kind of focus on that. After I've left an organization and the team still continues to be strong, or if there have been people that I hired and they end up being successful after leaving the organization and no longer working for me. And then especially we've had the situation where we invited someone over again to now speak to our team here at Ocado, and he referred back to a lot of the discussions and kind of topics and themes that we developed back in the days when we used to work together. So if ideas that I have a lasting impact on people or the organizations beyond when I'm there, it's probably the proudest moments that I have. Well, that's a great question. I don't think any day is particularly alike the other one, but I do spend a lot of my time in discussions with others. Either that is discussions with my peers and in a way the customers and partners internally to the organization to try and understand their problem space and try to help them understand what we could do to address their challenges. Or it's conversations with my team around how do we set ourselves up to deliver value, or kind of what is the approach that we're trying to take on a specific problem. So I definitely spend, I would say, the majority of my day in discussions with others, and then the rest of the time probably trying to do a bit of alone time, thinking either around like how do we react to something, trying to understand the latest developments in AI. I also spend a fair amount of time speaking to people outside of my organization to make sure that I have as good as possible an overview of what's happening in the space that's moving so fast. Thing is, there's so much happening. You can't keep up with all of the developments on the technical side. You can't keep up with all of the developments on the business side either. I think it's being somewhat comfortable in picking a subset of what you feel you should know as an AI practitioner, and then getting really good at that rather than being on top of everything that's happening. And I think finding the right balance of technical and business focus as well is another really difficult challenge for practitioners at the moment. It's so hard to predict what will change. I wonder whether it's better to kind of quote Jeff Bezos to focus on what will remain the same. And I think data science and AI will continue to really be used to drive two particular things. One is helping organizations make better decisions. And that might be, or generally will be about resource allocation, right? So how do I know I'm investing the right bits into my product? How do I make sure I have the right staff in the right places? And I think for that, that will be a constant problem that data science and AI will continue to work on. The second one is, I think, around building better products that have an impact on the customers or whoever's paying for your product. And the techniques will change, but I think that ability to understand the real business pain or the customer pain and being able to understand what's the simplest way of addressing them will continue to be a really important thing over the next 5 to 10 years. So I think when I started, data science wasn't yet a thing. After that we spent a couple of years talking a lot about big data. And now arguably we're in the third kind of hype cycle around generative AI. And we can already see generative AI being replaced by agentic. So I think kind of one thing that you should be aware of is the tools will change a lot, the core topics will change a lot. And so it's really, again, quite important to remember what will stay constant, to have a really good grounding in the understanding of the methodology so that you know what techniques make sense given the context in which you live and the context of your data. And also be really curious, not just about the technical side, but also about the business side of it. Because in the end of the day, that's where the value comes from. For most of us, the value isn't in creating the most complex model or the most technically interesting model. It's creating a model that solves a problem in the simplest way. And so find a way to bridge both your technical interests with a real curiosity around the business. I think probably stakeholder management and the ability to explain what you're doing to people who haven't spent nearly as much time worrying about the technical detail. I've definitely remembered that I've made the mistake the first time we tried to sell a pricing optimization tool to the business. We talked about how smart it was and how it was able to take into account small sales rates or very low sales rates, and I was able to take into account competitor pricing and all sorts of stuff in order to build the price elasticity. But actually, we completely neglected the business side of it, and it came across as almost being a bit arrogant. The next time we tried to sell the tool again, we were much more focused just on the problems it was solving for our stakeholders, and that landed much, much better. And I think often as data practitioners, it's quite easy to think, but I have the answer. The statistics show that this is way better. Why do you not understand it? And actually, it's really important to try and walk in the shoes of the customers that you're building this for and really understand what's in it for them or why they might be maybe less excited about implementing it. Because again, I think the power of our profession only occurs when it actually does drive change, either on the customer side or on the colleague side. And therefore, we have to bring them on board. When I saw this question, I kind of had a bit of a think about it. It's very hard, but there's too many amazing people. Probably if I had to pick one, I think who's consistently been someone that I've been following, it's Andrew Ng. I think the classes and courses he did very early on about introductions to data science have taught so many people what they know about the field. And he's been also very consistent on being very good in explaining complex topics very simplistically, and also being very focused on the business side of it as well. So I think he does a great newsletter, and that is a really good way of keeping on top of what's kind of happening in this field. I actually think the RSS data science newsletter is amazing. Piers does an amazing job of distilling the complexities of a month worth of development into an incredibly detailed newsletter. So, and I have to be honest, at the moment, I think I spend more time reading newsletters than actual papers. There's too much stuff to keep on top of, and I think that's the best way of helping me understand where maybe I want to dig in a little bit later down the line.